the museum?
Yes.
Okay, so I hope you will have a good time here today. And for my talk, I will give you a brief introduction to the Chinese history. Because China has a very long history, I can only touch upon a little bit about it. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Chinese culture and language. And towards the end, it will be the educational stages that students go through in China. Okay, so throughout my talk, if you feel a little bit tired or a little bit bored, feel free to raise your hand and ask me any question, okay? Just don't fall into sleep, all right? Okay, so before we start, why don't we learn a few Chinese sentences first, okay? So the one I'm going to teach you is Mandarin Chinese, which is the standard spoken form, okay, in China. And all the kids in China receive education in standard Mandarin, okay? So let's start. Do you know how to say hello? Yes. Ni hao. Yeah, ni hao. Okay, ni hao. Very good. And the second sentence is, my name is Jennifer. So for Jennifer part, you just put in your own name, okay? So just speak after me. 我叫 Jennifer.
我叫 Jennifer.
Oh, very good. Just for Jennifer, just put in your own name, okay? So we do not have that many Jennifers here, right? Oh, okay. All right, good. And then the last one, I'm from the United States. Let's break it into two parts, okay? I'm from 我来自.
我来自.
Very good. 我来自.
我来自.
The United States. 美国.
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 Then together. 我来自美国.
我来自美国.
Wonderful. So let's start from the top. 你好.
你好.
我叫 Jennifer.
我叫 Jennifer.
我来自美国.
我来自美国.
Good, very good. So just by saying these three sentences, did you notice some differences between Chinese and English? Yeah, what is it?
Well, at the end of a lot of words, it's sort of raising it. Like we would do
So
at the end of
it
the
goes
sentence.
a little bit like up and down like that, yeah?
It falls at the end of the phrase, I guess.
Right, right. So that's one thing, it's like Chinese is a tonal language. Yes?
There are like 5 different tones. 4.
Yeah, 4. Do you learn Chinese? Are you? Yeah. How many of you are learning Mandarin Chinese? Oh, wonderful. Do you learn it at school? You're studying at school? Okay, I see. All right, yeah, so we have like 4 standard tones in standard Mandarin, and the 5th tone will be like no tone like that. So if I use the ma sound to demonstrate, it will be ma, 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 ma. Okay? So each character carries a tone. Whenever the tones change, the meaning change. So here's an example. Okay? So we happen to have a same spelling in Chinese as in English. 我们. Okay? So if you how would you pronounce this in English? So please say it in whatever funny way that you like. Whoa. Change it to another different way. So no matter in what way you say it, does the meaning change? It still means exactly. So in Chinese, one is for woman, which means we or us. 我们, okay? But if I change the tone, still 我 means I, and then 们. It means I'm bored. Okay, because the character changed. Okay, so it becomes I'm bored. That's why when you learn Mandarin Chinese, it's very important for you to catch the tone. Okay, and it's challenging, right? Yeah. What's the most challenging part for you? Yeah.
I think that the tones and the different characters is really different.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And another thing is the characters. So Chinese is not an alphabetic language. Okay, we have our own writing system, which is the Chinese characters. For example, here the name of China in Chinese. What is it? 中国. Okay. 中 means middle, central, and 国 means country. So together it means central kingdom. Okay? One of the explanation is in the past when ancient people didn't have much knowledge about geography, they may consider the earth was flat and their country was situated in the middle of the world. And that's how we got this name. And for these Chinese characters, we have a total of 90,000 Chinese characters, which are more like a 90,000 alphabets in English, because they're the basic components of words. Okay? But the most commonly used ones are just about 3,500. And usually students learn all of them by the end of elementary school. So from the first grade on, we have a lot of homework in copying, in practicing Chinese characters. Usually like 10 times, 20 times for one character for our homework. Okay? So for example, for my name, so in Chinese naming, we have our family name comes first, and then our given name. So my name is Zeng Wei. My first task in my first grade study is learning how to write my name. So it will be like writing my name for 50 times like that. And I really hated my name at that time because it's very complicated, right? Together there are 23 strokes, and I have to practice take a long time. While a classmate of mine, she only got a name like this. And I really envy her at that time for having a name like this. Okay? So then at school, literacy teachers usually ask kids to practice writing together like this. Okay? So please have your index fingers out of whatever hand that you use for writing. Okay? Just speak after me and move after me. Okay? Shu. Shu. Heng. Heng. Shu. Shu. Heng. Heng. Shu. Shu. Zhong. So zhong is this character. So we have a name for each stroke. And then usually we practice together with the teacher. And the final pronunciation is for the pronunciation of this character. Zhong. And Chinese usually consider ourselves as the descendants of Long, which means Chinese dragon. Anyone here can tell me the differences between Chinese dragons and Western dragons? Yes?
A Chinese dragon is considered good,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have wings.
Right.
And it's
But it
very
can still
long.
fly, right?
But the Western dragon can breathe fire. It's bad and it has wings.
Right. Actually, you mentioned something very important about Chinese dragons. It's a very good, fortunate, and auspicious symbol in Chinese culture. In history, during the dynastic period, actually it's considered as the symbol of emperor. Okay? But when you go to a zoo, you cannot find a cage for dragons, right? It's imagined, right? Actually, it's a symbol created by the ancient people of different tribes. When they decided to come together, they designed this common symbol to put features of different animals together to create it as their common symbol, like a common logo. Then what is the national animal of China then? It's not the dragon because, yes, make a guess. Right, because dragon doesn't exist, so yes.
The tiger?
No, not tiger, yeah.
The silkworm?
No. But I was about to, yes, the last one.
The backplane camel?
No. So it's actually a popular figure in a recent animation. Yes?
Is it a panda?
It is panda. They're cute, right? So the reason is pandas there are not many pandas in the world, right? And a very rare species. One of the reasons is they can only live in a particular part in China, in the southwestern part of China, in the province called Sichuan province. Okay, so they only eat a kind of bamboo. Yeah, so that's why it's very difficult for them to survive. And where can you see a panda here? Yes. No, not in Philadelphia Zoo, but close. Yes.
In the the Washington D.C. Zoo?
Yeah, in Washington D.C. Zoo, okay? And also, if you travel to Atlanta and San Diego of California, you can see pandas there too. So pretty much all the pandas you can see all over the world were sent from this center in Sichuan province of China. Okay? And another one important product from China is rice. Okay, Chinese start planting rice from 5000 BC. It has been a long time, and it remains as a major staple food in Chinese daily meals. For example, I cook rice every day, and I have rice pretty much for every single lunch, and then here, unless I eat outside. Okay, so any food that you eat for every meal, yes?
And my sister, she doesn't like anything. She only eats rice for dinner.
Oh, really?
She just eats rice.
Oh, okay. How about the other people? Like anything that you eat for every meal? Like bread or, yes? Ah, okay. So rice for Chinese is a little bit like bread, okay? Or potatoes for Americans here, okay? And another important product from China is silk. Some of you just now mentioned silkworm. Okay, so Chinese started making silk, authentic silk, from 3750 BC. Okay, it has been a long time, and the way that people produce silk from back then is still used today. And anyone here raised silkworms before? Yeah. So pretty much this picture shows you how the silk is made here. Like at the end, the silkworm spit out the silk and make a cocoon, and then they just pick the cocoon, okay, and put all the cocoons together to, for example, if I need to make a dress like this, purely from silk, you will need thousands of, tens of thousands silkworms, okay, to make a dress like this. And that's why it makes silk products so expensive. Yes?
I think they started to use spiders now.
Spiders?
Yeah, they start because they're much easier, and they're much easier to raise.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
This is the first time I heard about it. I'll check it later and see whether it is like that, okay? And when we talk about Chinese history, if you ask Chinese people, the common number they like to give you is 5,000 years, okay? It's like, we like to say China is a country of 5,000 years. But actually, if more archaeological evidence is found, it can be traced further back, okay? So there are 4 major periods in the Chinese history. The first one is the ancient and mythical period from the beginning to 221 BC. Okay? The reason that it's called mythical is because it's so far back in history, sometimes you cannot find enough evidence to prove it, like archaeological evidence to prove it. So a lot of these historical facts become more like a story-like, legend-like type of thing. So people like call it as mythical period. Yes. Okay. And then in 221 BC, even during the mythical period, there are these like large pieces of utensil made of bronze are being produced. Okay, some of these pieces can weigh as much as 1 ton to 4 tons. Okay, so a small sedan car today can weigh like 1 to 2 tons. Okay, a large SUV is like 3 to 4 tons. So these bronze works, in fact, are very big in sizes and very heavy. So sometimes it's amazing that how people back then, without modern technology, can still make large pieces like this. Here at the museum, we have some pieces like of the bronze works, okay, from Qin Dynasty. You may look them up later. Yes.
How big were they actually?
It really varies. For this one, actually, it's very big. I think this one weighs like 3 tons. Okay, you just have to see it. Usually, a big one is like this, but because it's made of bronze, it's very heavy. And the next period is the imperial period. Started with the first dynasty, Qin Dynasty, which was founded by this guy. We call him Qin Shi Huang in the history. Later, when you started your world history class, you may get a chance to know about him, as he's a very important figure in the Chinese history. He was in fact a very cruel king, okay, and didn't have a long life. However, he had a couple of projects that had a lot of influence on Chinese history. The first one is, I think most of you have known this, right?
Terracotta warrior.
Oh, okay, you did a project on this, the Terracotta Army, right, for his tomb. In fact, his tomb is much bigger than this. The picture only shows you one chamber of his tomb, okay? So far, 2 chambers have been opened for visitors, but his tomb is bigger than this. Another one is he unified the shape of coins for Chinese money. And this shape, the round shape with the square hollow in the middle, was used until 1911, the end of the last dynasty. So it was used for how much? Like almost like 2,000 years, more than 2,000 years, okay, in the Chinese history. And another project is the Qin Great Wall. Okay, so the Great Wall you often see here, especially here on the TV programs, was in fact built during Ming Dynasty from 1300 to 1600. Okay, so Qin Great Wall was a lot older and therefore much more worn out than the Ming Great Wall. So it's not that fun for visiting, but more interesting if you want to go for exploration. Yes.
Well, my sister, she actually has one of the Chinese coins that has the square.
Ah, okay, yeah. So, do you know from what period is that coin?
I do not know.
Okay, okay.
It looks pretty.
Yeah. So today this Qin Great Wall wasn't connected anymore. Okay, you can see only sections of it, and it's more towards the northwestern part of China. Then after Qin Dynasty, China went through a good number of different dynasties and different periods in the history until the last dynasty, Qing Dynasty, okay, which started from 1600 AD to 1911. Okay, so this actually used to be the royal garden, located in northwestern part of Beijing. It's called Summer Palace. Okay, but now it's open for tourists. If you travel to Beijing, this is one of the places you want to go, and this is the Forbidden City, which used to be the palace, okay, of the royal family. It's right in the heart in the middle of Beijing, and Beijing has been the capital of the country for more than 800 years. So it's a very interesting for visit, although the air quality is not that good in that city now. Yes.
Why is it so yellow?
What?
Why is it so yellow?
Yeah, and it's a very good question because this is the color for emperor, and it can only be used by the emperor and his crown prince. Other princes cannot use this color either. So it's more like the symbolic color of the emperor, and it's called Forbidden City. Do you know why? Why it's called Forbidden City? Yes.
Because only a few people could get in, and then if you wanted to leave, you could leave, but once you left, you couldn't get back in.
You can get back in, but it's more like, first it's only for the emperor and his wives and children, okay? And it's young children, not grown-up children. And then government officers can go back in, okay? As long as the emperor call on them. However, the common people cannot go, and that's why it's called Forbidden City. Okay. So this map actually shows you the change of territory, okay, in China, like throughout the history. So this is Qin Dynasty, the first dynasty in Chinese history. Then Han Dynasty, when the Silk Road trading started. So as you can see, at different times, sometimes there was only one country on the land, but then sometimes there are multiple kingdoms on the land. Okay, so that's why it created a lot of regional diversities, okay, across the country in terms of food, customs, traditions, and many other ways as well. So this is Yuan Dynasty when Mongols ruled China, and Ming Dynasty and Qing Dynasty, the last dynasty, okay, when Manchurians ruled China, and this is the current time. Okay. So just now we talked about dragon. Do you guys know what it is for?
Isn't it for like when you have like celebrations in China, people put them on like
Right. So we call it dragon dance, right? Yeah, for Chinese New Year, but not just for Chinese New Year. It's used for other holiday celebration as well. And also used for, we have it for business opening. Basically, if you have any kind of big events that you want to attract people's attention, okay, to celebrate it with a lot of people, to share the happiness with them, then people will have this dragon dance, okay? As you can see here, the dragon's eyes are closed, right? And the reason is, at the beginning of the dragon dance, they will have a ceremony to have somebody, usually the host of the event, to use a Chinese brush to kind of draw on the eye, to indicate the opening of the eye and also the opening of the event, okay? And in order to open the eyes here, you have a string inside, and so the head person needs to be kind of like very, I don't know, like know some martial arts very often and multitasking in order to move the head in a nice way, but also pull the string to have the eyes open. Any boys and girls would like to come up here to do it? Okay, so I have two boys, okay? The two of you and one more girl. One more girl? Okay, yeah, please. So the head person would be the leading person, okay? Okay, you will do it. So just hold it here. Yeah, please come over here. So when you move the head, you can move up and down like this, okay? In exaggerated way, okay? In whatever way you like, okay? And I have the two girls in the middle, yeah, for the body part. Yeah, just holding it, and yeah. You can hold here, that's fine, yeah. And the last one, so for the tail part, so even for the body part, it's very important for you not to just stay in a straight line, okay? So move a little bit like zigzagging and make it like movement as well to have your dragon like a dance just like the dragon flying in the sky, okay? And usually for dragon dance, they do not just dance like this, right? What else do we have for the dragon dance?
jumping.
You have a band, right? A band that play drums, gongs, and Chinese cymbals together to make the noise for them. So here, so why don't we everybody kind of like just kind of like clap on your okay? Like this. And then you guys go around, okay? Go around. Oh, you may like go this way. So we have to try that. Try it. And move the head. Move the head. Up the head. Move the head. The head up and down. Yes, very good. Like this. Yes, very good. Please come back this way. Yeah, come back this way. All right. And move the head up and down. Very good. Oh, very good. All right. Okay. Thank you. Please give them a round of applause. Right, so as I just mentioned, for the dragon dance, sometimes in order to have the dragon like standing up like this, then they will have the dragon dancers kind of stacking up on each other, and that's why it's important for the dancers to know some martial arts, okay? And then can jump up and down like that. Okay. So here's a map of current China, and Beijing, which is the capital city, is here, which is at a similar latitude as New York. Okay, so Russia, in terms of size, is the largest country in the world, right? Russia, and China is very similar in size to the United States. Okay, the differences are very small, and also along the east coast is close to the East China Sea, which is like part of the Pacific Ocean. And my hometown is actually down south in the country near Hong Kong. Okay, so the weather there is similar to Miami. Like here along the east coast, we have hurricanes, right? Then in my hometown and also along the east coast of China, we have typhoons, which are like the hurricanes on the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. Okay, but the western part of China, the weather and climate there is a lot harsher, not nice at all like here along the west coast. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the differences in terms of regional cuisines across the country to show you the diversities. Okay, so if I asked you what may be a typical American food to you, what would you say? American, typical American food. Yes.
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. Okay, and you?
French fries.
French fries. Okay, and you?
Pie.
Pie. Yeah. Okay, one last one.
Hot dogs.
Hot dog.
Yeah.
Okay, and you? Donuts. Okay. As you can see, when I ask different people, and different people can give me different answers, right? The same thing. If you ask Chinese people, different people will tell you different answers as well. What's a typical Chinese food to you, by the way? Yes. Okay. Actually, shrimp fried rice is more like American. It's like Chinese American to me. And yes. Rice. Okay. And you? Ah, lo mein. Okay. And one last one.
Sushi.
Sushi actually Japanese. But it's okay. Yeah. So I got miso soup yesterday, so sometimes it's difficult to distinguish. Okay. So here's like a brief summary for you. So although Chinese like rice, okay, people in the north actually eat more food made out of a dough, okay, made of flour. So these steamed buns, the fried doughs, the Peking duck pancakes are all like made out of a dough, flour. And if you go a little bit more towards the west, people there eat a lot of noodles. Okay, once again, like the noodles made of different kind of flour. And if you go further northwestern part of country, on the border with Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, most people live there are Uyghurs, okay, who look more like Turkish people, and most of them are Muslims. So they do not eat pork, but mainly lamb. In fact, they are the ones who introduced lamb to Chinese people in this area in their food. Okay, so here it's a roasted sheep, entire sheep roasted, and put it in the middle of the table, which is considered as a very kind of formal and important meal for people living there. So for someone like me who's from this area of the country, a dish like this is also very foreign to me. Okay? But then when we travel to this part of the country, it's actually interesting for us to try out. And then if you go south to southwestern China, Sichuan province, where the pandas live, people there eat a lot of spicy food. Okay? Like mapo tofu, have you heard about it? Yeah, so it's a very famous dish from that area. And one of the reasons that it's very humid in that province, and people like to eat the spice, okay, to kind of get rid of the humidity. Then if you go to my hometown, Guangdong province, we the roast pork, and also we eat a lot of fish. Okay, and have you heard about dim sum? Dim sum, yeah. Dim sum is actually originally from my province. Okay, so some of my Chinese friends here who are from other parts of China, for example, for Beijing, they didn't have dim sum until they came to Philadelphia. Okay, the reason is most of the earliest Chinese immigrants to the United States were from my province and Fujian province, and they brought their own version of Chinese food here, and that's why you got more dim sum in Philadelphia than probably in Shanghai or another city in China. Okay, then if you go to Eastern China, like Shanghai area, people there like food that are sweeter. Okay, they cannot eat spicy food at all. They eat sweeter dishes. And here's a very famous kind of pastry from steamed bun from Shanghai called xiaolongbao. Have you heard about it? So this bun, like there's soup in it. When you bite on the bun, the soup comes out. Okay, so you have to eat it with a spoon, and it's very fun to try this dish. Speaking of eating, actually, when we eat, sometimes for Chinese people, we do not just eat the dish because of its taste, okay? So taste is important, but sometimes we eat it for certain meaning. For example, for a birthday, usually mothers like to cook a bowl of cook some noodles for children as well as the adults in the family as well. Can you guess why for noodles? It actually symbolizes the wish for longevity, like long life. Can you guess? Yes?
Because noodles are long.
Yes, the noodles are long, especially some Chinese noodles are very long, and they take the shape like for that kind of good wish. Okay, and then for Chinese New Year, we like to eat a lot of fish, and one of the reasons is fish has the same pronunciation as abundance in Chinese. Okay, so it's like expressing people's wish for a lot of good things in the new year. So sometimes the food itself actually carries meaning. And also for when eating, especially for children, there's some kind of a standard table manner practice that young people need to learn as well. Do you have some kind of like table manner you have to follow at home? Yeah, what is it?
We're not allowed to read or practicing at the table or using electronics.
Okay. And you?
Can't have any toys or games.
Right, exactly. And you?
Chewing with your mouth closed, you have to do that.
Okay. Yeah, chewing with your mouth closed. In fact, that's something. It's fine for Chinese. Like on Chinese table, there's some differences I've observed. That when we have eat noodles, we can make some noise, and also eat the soup like noise like this. That's fine on a Chinese dinner table. Okay, but there are certain things that are quite unique to Chinese dinner table because of the utensils we use. Okay, so on our table, we only use bowls basically. Okay, plates are for dishes. Then we use one bowl for rice. Okay, and then one bowl for soup. Okay, then we only eat with chopsticks. Definitely not with fingers. After I came to the States, actually I developed a habit of eating sometimes with my fingers. And when I went back to China, and my mom didn't like it at all. And then when we sit, for young people, you're supposed to sit after your grandparents and parents sit down. Okay, so you're the last ones to sit. And then, because usually Chinese sit around a round table, you're not supposed to take up a lot of space because you're young and you should reserve more space for the older folks in the family. So try to tighten up your elbows, and instead of eating like this, making a lot of noise, you're supposed to hold up your bowl and eat quietly, like scoop the rice into your mouth. And then when you actually stretch your arm out to get dishes, right, in the middle, you are not supposed to have any of your fingers sticking out, because that would be like pointing at somebody when you try to get some food, and that's considered as very impolite. And if I did that when I was a kid, my father would hit my finger, and then I would get my finger back. I saw a hand just now. Yeah.
How do you eat soup with the chopsticks?
How do I what, sorry?
How do you eat?
Eat soup with chopsticks?
Never mind.
Okay, that's actually, you reminded me of something. So in Chinese food, we do not have steaks then. We do not have any large pieces of meat because you cannot cut the steak with chopsticks, right? So all the meat or dishes are usually cut into small pieces in preparation already, so that all into like bite sizes, then we can pick up by them with our chopsticks, right? Because we do not really use fork and knife at home, unless in a Western restaurant. Okay. And also, among Chinese food, there are some items that actually kind of like have gone through a long history. For example, the spring rolls. These are the pieces from the Silk Road exhibition, okay, that were here a couple of years ago at the museum. They were found in the desert area in northwestern China, like 2,000 years ago, the flower cakes, like food items. And these are the ones that we still have today, like the spring rolls, the wontons, fried doughs, and plum flower cakes. Okay? And also, the gadgets that people use for making tofu up there, like in Qin Dynasty, the lady is basically in the dressing of Qin Dynasty, is still used today in the rural area. Okay, they just grind it to make tofu. Another diversity I would like to share with you is the population. Okay, and then because of the diversity in the population. Do you know how big is Chinese population? It's the biggest one in the world. Yes.
Around 1 billion.
A bit more than that. Okay, if it is 1.344 billion. Okay, to be exact. Yes.
Oh,
Okay. And of the population, the majority group is called Han. Okay, so unlike here, the diversity, depending on the races, in Chinese population is about the ethnicities. Okay, so if the majority group is Han people, like people who look like me, accounting for 90%, and then we have 55 minority groups who can be the Mongolians, Manchurians, Koreans, Thai. They all like come into to live in China at different periods of history. Okay, as you can see, right, the territory changed in history. So here I'm going to show you the ethnic clothing, okay, of these different groups. This is the traditional clothing of Han people, okay, and this is the traditional clothing of Manchurian for women, okay. Manchurian are the ruling class, right, of the last dynasty. So if you see a Chinese lady wearing a traditional dress today at a formal event, have you seen a dress similar to this? Yeah? So actually this dress was designed from the Manchurian dress, okay? Because they ruled China like for 300 years. And here's an example here. Any girl would like to try? Yes, please. So I picked the easiest one, which only has a zip at the back. But in the past, it's a lot more complicated, especially with all of these buttons. Okay, just like the ladies in Europe back in the history, like it took a lot more time to put on the dress in the past. Just So also in the past, for any dress for women, it's always long sleeves, okay, and didn't expose any part of the body, and also the dress will go as long as the legs go, okay. And also when girls wear a dress, for these designs of the dresses, sometimes they pick it because they're beautiful, but sometimes they pick it because of different meanings. For example, on this dress, you have the plum flowers, the bamboo leaves. Actually, they're together with pine trees are the symbols of scholars. Okay, so for the daughters of scholars' families, they may wear a dress with these designs. And also for this bright yellow color, as one of your friends just now mentioned, in the past, common people cannot use this color, right? Because it's only for the emperors. So if somebody secretly wear this color like underneath and they got caught, it would be considered as treason. Okay? Because if you wear a color like this, basically it means you want to be the emperor and you want to overthrow the current dynasty. So, but now it's fine. This color can be worn by anybody. Okay? Would you want to like walk over there and then walk back? And everybody gives her Alright, thank you very much.
Why did you do a baker style? Like she just run down there.
Baker style, just put it into gold.
And here, it's the traditional clothing for Mongolians in China. Okay, so they have different tribes in Inner Mongolia, and different tribes can have their own different styles. And here's the traditional clothing for Uyghur, the one I just mentioned in Xinjiang province, who look more like Turkish. And Hui people, actually they are the descendants of Arabic businessmen traveling to China during Tang Dynasty. And then their ancestors decided to stay in China and raise their families, and formed this Hui people group in Chinese population. Oops. And then here's the Thai, ethnic Thai in China, who live in southwestern China in the province called Yunnan. They actually share a much similar, much more similar religion, culture, and language to people in Thailand, okay, than Han people in China. And this series of stamps were issued by the Chinese government a couple of years ago, okay, to showcase the different clothing of these 55 ethnic groups. Okay, so the last one I would like to talk about with you is the educational stages that Chinese children go through. Okay, so pretty much from year 1 to year 3, some parents may send their kids to daycare centers, just like here, but many of them can just stay at home and being taken care of by their grandparents. Okay, it's a tradition in Chinese families for young children to be taken care of by grandparents, and then children will have 3 years of kindergarten, with the first 2 years more like daycare, and 6 years of elementary school, and 6 years of middle school. But compulsory education in China is 9 years. So at the age of 15, at the end of grade 9, Chinese students need to take a regional entrance examination to high school. Okay, so they need to be selected by get a certain score to be selected by the local high schools. And when I took this exam, I was tested on Chinese, math, English, and then physics, chemistry, history, social science, biology, geography, and physical education. And in PE, I was tested in 50-meter dash, throwing weights, and also long jump. Okay, so we receive all the scores from these tests and then combine together to be selected by the local high schools. Then, at the end of grade 12, it's a very important test to Chinese young people, which is the National Entrance Examination to college. Okay, it's similar to SAT here, but a lot more than SAT. Because to apply universities here, you need to write your personal statement, right? To ask for reference letters, yeah. You need to have your CV, different components. But in China, for a university application, the results only come from this entrance examination. And kids were tested on different tracks, depending whether you're a science student, liberal arts student, or foreign language student, with these 3 tracks. Later after that, a graduate school is quite similar to, and college quite similar to here. So before schooling, Chinese parents, have you heard about this one-child policy in China? Yeah, so each couple can only have 1 child in order to control the population. So the children actually receive a lot of attention from the parents as well as grandparents. But now as the first generation of only child have grown up, actually we are under a lot of burden and pressure as well because of the Chinese tradition of taking care of our parents and grandparents when they get older. And Chinese parents like to use a lot of these stories from the history for moral teaching. Okay, you guys watch this movie? Yeah, Mulan. Mulan is a typical story that Chinese parents like to tell to their young kids, especially girls. Okay, for independence. Yes.
What happens if you have 2 kids?
It depends actually if you have 2 kids. Okay, so. For the minority groups, actually they can have kids as many as they want in order to maintain their population. People in rural areas, they can have 2 kids in order to maintain labor. But in the city areas, abortion usually is used before actually the second kid was born. Yeah.
What if the person used to have twins?
Twins are fine because that's natural, right? Or triplets, or even more, that's fine because it's from 1 birth. Yeah? And this is another movie. Have you watched this movie, The Karate Kid?
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember this scene, like how Jackie Chan actually trained Jaden Smith, right? Yeah, in fact, the way that he asked him to repeat to be disciplined is quite typical, okay? Not only in martial arts schools in China, but even in schools in China, like to keep the kids disciplined and in good manner as well. So I just use elementary school as an example to show you the classroom, okay, in China, because it's all basically similar from elementary school to high school. Kids do not go to different classrooms for classes, okay? Each class of students have their own fixed classroom. And we do not have homeroom teachers, okay? Just teachers of different subjects will come to the classroom to teach each subject. And usually kids are seated in lines and rows like this. And in the school, once again, you're supposed to sit like this with both arms on the table to be kind of well behaved, okay? And usually how big is your class usually?
20 kids.
Right, the class size in China is much larger. Usually at least 40 for sure. Sometimes in high school it can be as large as 80. Okay, for those good high schools that everybody compete to get in, then their class sizes are very big. So because of these class sizes, kids do not have much group work. It's pretty much basically like individual work, listening to the teacher, lectures, taking notes, and then go back home for homework. How much homework do you have every day?
A lot.
A lot. Like how do you spend on homework? At average, yes?
The average is like 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
It's not a lot. For me, it's like an hour.
An hour, okay. And you? Half an hour, okay. So for Chinese students, homework, it actually the government ordered the school to reduce homework, okay. And when I was an elementary school kid or middle school, I spent at least 2 hours, okay, at least 2 hours. High school, like an evening, 5 hours on homework. But now, in order to reduce the pressure, the government ordered the schools to reduce homework, but still like at least half an hour for the basic subject. The basic subjects are Chinese, math, and English. All the kids in China started learning English from 3rd grade on. So these are the basic, but if you have chemistry today, then you have homework. So it's actually a lot of work for this part. And usually, kids have 6 to 7 classes a day, and elementary school's class is 40 minutes per class, okay? And then between classes, you have 10-minute break. And because kids do not need to go to other classrooms, they can like play some games and have a rest during the 10-minute break. Okay, so here I'm going to show you a daily schedule of a student. So usually they arrive at school between 7 and 7:40-ish, okay, to hand in homework, get prepared. And then we have the morning reading session, okay. They read Chinese text or English text alternatively, okay. So reading out loud like this for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then you have the first and second periods. After that, all the kids may go down to the school playground like this one to do the exercises together, okay? So it's also standardized. After the third period, we may have the eye protection exercise, okay? So actually it comes from the Chinese medicine. It's like a massage on these points on your face that can help you relax your eyes after so much work, okay? Would you like to try it with me together? Yes. Get 2 episodes, okay? So the first one is you put your thumbs on this end of your eyebrows and rest the other fingers on your forehead and just kind of like massage in circles, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very good. And another one is just 2 fingers first, index and middle fingers, and put it right beside your nose, okay? And rest the thumb on your chin like this, okay? And then take the middle fingers out. Middle fingers out, yes, okay? And then you got the right one, and then massage in circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so we have 4 episodes for this. And usually it takes about 10 minutes for the kids to practice every day. And then after the fourth period, it's the noon break, which is about 2 hours to 2.5 hours long. Okay, so kids will have lunch, either go home to have lunch or stay at school to have lunch at the school cafeteria. Yes?
How long is the school day?
Hello. So the afternoon session usually start at about 2 o'clock, and then the last classes may end at about 4-ish. Okay, 4 to 4:30, depending on which level you're at. Then after that, students may have extracurricular activities. So during the noon break, very often the kids have a nap as well. Okay, so taking a nap at noon is a tradition in China. Not only the children, but also the adults. Okay, so here at school, you know how they take a nap? So they would take blankets and pillows from home, okay? Then put the tables and chairs together. So each kid may take 3 tables and then put the blankets on the tables, and you just take a nap on the tables or chairs, like that. And then after they go home at night, usually they will spend 2 hours or more for homework. Okay? Then so for junior high school, it becomes a lot more intense, okay? Just like you guys, students at your age, it becomes more intense, more classes, and also longer classes each day, and for sure, much more homework, and especially when they need to prepare for exams, okay? And then when they get to the senior high school, that's the most intensive period. Pretty much students need to spend the last year in high school to prepare for the national entrance examination. For example, when I prepare for my entrance examination, I pretty much stay at school until 10 o'clock at night every day. And then after I go home, I take a break and then still keep on working on some exercises until like 11 or 12 before I go to bed. Okay. So in a lot of East Asian countries, students usually spend a lot of time on this. And here, I'm showing you some pictures and also comics to how students prepare for the national entrance examinations at school. Okay? And usually during this period, parents do not even dare to talk or make a lot of noise when their kids are working on their homework. And also on the exam day, the city, actually, there are 3 days of exam, okay? So the cities may even close down the roads around schools, okay? To prevent cars or trucks going around the school to make noises. They just want to make sure the kids work on this exam in a quiet environment, okay? So I guess I have to stop here today. Before I finish, any question? No? Yes.
Is one of the foreign languages in China that you can learn English?
It depends on the school, but basically English is like the standard first choice foreign language. In some schools, if they have the resources, they may provide Japanese, French, or other languages. But because English is tested in all of these important exams, kids need to study it anyway. They have to study it. Okay?
Approximately how many hours do you get to sleep if you go to sleep at 12?
Depending on the stages, but sometimes maybe just 6 or 7. Okay, in high school. Yeah, and that's in high school. Some actually spend even more time, okay, on homework and exercises. All right, so thank you very much for your attention.